Hey folks, Sam here at NA Studios. Thanks for checking the video out. Today I want to take a look at 10 legendary plugins, 10 plugins that have achieved legendary status, or sometimes maybe just the kind of plugin that they are. These are the kind of plugins that you see in every video. These are the kind of plugins that you look over someone's shoulder and they're using this plugin. The legendary plugins, but I want to see what else there is out there. I want to see what the alternatives are. So for every legendary plugin, I want to give you a free alternative that is going to be fantastic and is going to be great for your productions. Now, these are just my 10. I may have missed some, I may have not thought they were legendary, or I maybe have just forgotten about them. If there's something that I've missed, leave it in the comments and let me know about it. Let's check it out. Number one is Fabfilter Pro Q3, which is undeniably one of the most widespread EQs. The GUI is absolutely fantastic. People just love looking at this thing, and it's not just the look, it's the sound. You can get some fantastic sounds out of this thing because there's so many bands you can manipulate in so many different ways. You can have all different types of filters, and you can have dynamic EQ, you can have mid-side EQ, you can do things to the left, to the right. There's so much that you can do, but to me, this is not something that is unique to Pro Q3. I know that a lot of people love this plugin. I know that it's used by so many people. I don't personally use it because there are a couple of alternatives that I think are just as good. iZotope have just released their Ozone 11 EQ completely for free, and this is a fantastically feature-filled EQ, and there's really nothing that you can't do with this EQ. You can do dynamics processing, you can add loads and loads of bands to really sculpt your sound, you can do mid-side EQing, you can solo bands so you can find out where resonances are, and you can really get creative with this thing where you can process the transient and the sustain. Ozone is intelligent enough to be able to notice what is the transient part of the signal and what is the sustain part. So there's so many possibilities with this, and you can really dig in deep. The sound is, as you would expect from a digital EQ, it's clean, it's surgical, you can do basically whatever you want with this EQ. And I think it's probably the best free alternative out there now that iZotope have, for some reason, given this amazing EQ away for free. Sticking with the EQs is Pultec Style EQs. Now, there is a few different companies that make these different types of EQs. So Waves do one. The large majority of plugin companies kind of do something that's Pultec based these days. And the best reason for having a Pultec Style EQ is that boost and attenuation on the same frequency. So you boost the low end and then you cut the low end as well, and it's going to boost, but then it's going to cut just above that boost, and it's going to stop your mix from getting too muddy. And it's a cool trick that we all love to use. In the top end, it's got kind of a silky smooth thing where you can do a similar thing, but it's not the only one out there. There are some free alternatives. Analog Obsession do their Rare bundle, which you can get completely for free over on their Patreon page. This, to me, sounds like a Pultec. I've not been lucky enough to use a real one, but I kind of know what the Pultec sound is, and I think everyone's sort of familiar with that warm Pultec and the kind of a creamy, smooth top end as well. Analog Obsession EQ gives you that. It's absolutely free. You can do mid-side, you can do left-right with it. There are a number of output options on there. It's a really feature-filled EQ for anyone who wants that Pultec sound for absolutely no cost. Check it out. Autotune, love it or hate it, is here to stay. It's something that we're used to hearing, whether it's the overused kind of share effect or whether it's something a little more subtle. It can be really useful when you're producing vocals, but there's cost attached to it, there's subscriptions, there's a lot of money involved there. So there's a few free alternatives. The first one is MAutoPitch from Melda Productions. Now this is a really interesting one that can just be an automatic tuner. There's a load of different functions on there that should enable you to get from something natural to something auto-tuned, something really unnatural. But the best free auto-tune alternative may already be in your DAW. If you're a Cubase user, then you've got Vari Audio. If you're a Logic user, then you've got Flex Pitch, and these can be one way or the other. You can get really natural sounds out of them, or you can get something really robotic. They're not without their quirks, shall we say. Sometimes Flex Pitch just goes a little bit crazy for me, but as a free alternative, it works. Now, a relative newcomer, but a list of 10 legendary plugins would not be complete without Soothe 2. This is fantastic. Is it Oeksound? Oeksound? don't know how you say it, but I know it's called Soothe 2, and this is just something that just makes your mix sound better. It's something that intelligently EQs where it knows that it should EQ. If you've got a vocal that sounds overly harsh or overly resonant, it's going to know, and it's going to dip out certain frequencies in a dynamic way. And it's really known for just being invisible, being unobtrusive, and just being a problem solver. And unfortunately, to my knowledge, I don't know of anything that is absolutely as intelligent, as feature-rich, and as perfect as Soothe 2 is, but there's plenty of dynamic EQs out there that with a little bit of tweaking can do a similar job. I personally love TDR Nova from Tokyo Dawn's Labs. I think this is a fantastic plugin, and I use it all the time for sidechaining stuff so I can get vocals to cut out above guitar. Everything that you want in a dynamic EQ is kind of here, and if you do want to help the company along, there is a gentleman's edition, which is the paid version, which I've purchased recently because I used Nova so much that I felt like I needed to give something back. It's not exactly the same as Soothe 2, but with a little bit of manipulation, you can get it to achieve a similar job. Channel strips. Love them, hate them, I love them, I think they're really useful. To me, it's about the way that they work. It's about the way that you have everything just in front of you, and that's really important to me. And the SSL channel strip is kind of legendary. So the G series, the E series, whatever it is, I kind of use them interchangeably. I don't particularly hear a massive difference in sound, but I love the way they're laid out, and they just help me to mix. They help me to have everything laid out in front of me, and that's really important. So the free version that I've chosen for this is the Logic channel from Smacklabs, and I'll be the first to admit it doesn't sound 100% the same as some of the SSL channel strips you can get. Maybe the Plugin Alliance or the Waves or the Slate Digital, whatever it is. But the thing is, they all sound different to each other, and they all sound different, I'm assuming, to the SSL console itself. So to say they're 1% different doesn't mean that they're not as good. They're just 1% different. They're better in a different way. And this one from Smacklabs, I just love the way it's laid out. I love the way it helps me to work in exactly the same way as the other paid channel strips help me to work. I think it's fantastic. If you're in the whole SSL realm and you like the way it works, Logic channel from Smacklabs is definitely worth checking out. 1176s, right, I couldn't not mention these, but to me, there's so many different versions of this. There's the Waves ones, there's the Slate ones, there's the UAD ones, which I guess are kind of the traditional ones that everyone thinks of as being really, really good. But loads of them are really, really good. There's too many plugin companies to name make 1176s, and everyone's got about 40 of them on their system. But there's one that I particularly like, and it's built into Logic. Now, you may not be a Logic user. If you are not a Logic user, then I can think of so many other places that do 1176 free emulations. I'll put them down the bottom. But to me, the Logic compressor is so feature-filled, and I could have included DBX 160 emulations, I could have included LA2A emulations, but Logic has got them all, and they all sound really, really fantastic. Being able to flick between them just at the click of a button is something that I love to do, just to experiment on different types of compressors. And I think it's important to know that this FET style compressor is fast, it sounds great on stuff, but don't just slam it on a snare drum because you've been told to slam it on a snare drum. Take a listen to that, and then take a listen to something else. Which do you like best? Just because you've been told 1176 sounds great on snare doesn't mean it sounds great on your snare. But to me, one of the best free plugins or built-in plugins that there is available is the Logic compressor. Now, iZotope RX. I use this for about 3 hours a day, every single day, and I absolutely love it. To me, there's only like 3 things that can fix something in the world. It's either gaffer tape, WD-40, or iZotope RX. And I don't think there's anything that really does all of it. There's nothing in my mind that actually covers all the bases that iZotope RX covers, because it's got all the music stuff in there, because it's got all the cleanup stuff, all the metering, all the voiceover stuff. There's just so many possibilities. But if you're looking for something that can do the general kind of run-of-the-mill noise reduction, then Audacity, don't laugh, has actually got some good features to it that may suit your workflow, and it's kind of annoying to have to take something out of your DAW and into Audacity, but the noise reduction stuff in there does work to a certain extent, and it may get you out of a hole. One that I've found though is Wavepad, which is kind of like a DAW, and it's just a noise reduction suite which has some of the similar functions that iZotope RX has. There's a myriad of possibilities within this plugin, but there's also a myriad of different plugins that will do a little bit of each of what iZotope RX do. So to me, you need like 10 free plugins to do what RX does, but that's why it costs the money. So a few different free alternatives there, but iZotope RX just does it all in one. Now, mastering processors, I use a few. I use the Sonox Inflator, which is kind of a one-trick thing. It does saturation, it does a little bit of transient stuff, and for what it does, I love it. It feels like a soft clipper, it feels like a cruncher. It's fantastic. I also use FGX2 from Slate Digital, which is cool. I also use Ozone because it's Ozone. And all three of these do something different, but they do something really, really nice to the signal. And I'm not aware of one plugin that does what all of these plugins do, or even something that does what one of them does, except for limiter number 6. Now, the problem here is that it's not regularly updated, or it's kind of not updated anymore, so it may not work if you have a new system, but it's got a compressor, a peak limiter, a high frequency limiter, a clipper, and it's just really good. It's completely free, and as a mastering processor, there's nothing really that touches its possibilities and the amount of control you have over your sound. I would thoroughly recommend taking a look at it. If you're not lucky enough to have a system that is old enough to run this, then I think the only real solution to this is to get to know the plugins that you have. Every DAW has a load of fantastic plugins built into it. Even like very inexpensive DAWs like Reaper, their stock plugins are fantastic, and there's so much that you can do. And with mastering, I personally don't feel like it's necessarily about the tools. I feel like it's having the tools that will allow you to achieve the sound, but knowing what that sound is in your head that you need to achieve in the first place. So I'm afraid it's a bit of a cop-out, but the only free alternative that isn't limiter number 6 to my mind is getting to know your stock plugins. But you may have a different opinion, so please do let me know in the comments if there's anything else out there that I should take a look at. Now, preamp emulations are they're not a new thing on the scene, but they're relatively new in terms of how long we've had plugins for. Typically you would emulate compressors, EQs, things like that, and the ability to actually emulate microphone preamps is cool. And there are a number of paid ones that do work really well. All the stuff that you get in the Universal Audio with the interfaces where you can track through them, they're great. Slate Digital do a load of great ones. There's plenty out there, but I'm going to go back to Analog Obsession for this again, because there's two in particular that I think work really nicely. There's Tuba, which I'm assuming is called Tuba and not Tube A, whatever. And there's Brit Pre. So the first one is like a tube-based preamp, and the second one is like a 1073-based kind of thing. You can get these free on their Patreon page, and to me these two are opposite ends of the spectrum. The 1073 is crunchy and vibey and can get really aggressive, and the Tuba, although you can get aggressive with it, it's really warm, it's smooth, and I think it's worth looking at. And those two alone, you can get something for every occasion. We all love a nice reverb sound, and there's plenty of reverbs out there which sound absolutely fantastic. There's Neoverb from iZotope, which personally I think is one of the best reverbs out there. There's Exponential Audio, Stratus and Symphony. Both do a different thing, but both do their own thing unbelievably well. There's far too many to mention, but one free one that I love, albeit only a plate reverb, is Tal Reverb 4. Now, this is completely free, and it gets a really nice plate sound with a load of different controls on there, so you can really manipulate this sound. And to me, it kind of goes one step beyond what I've found works in my DAW. I use Logic and Space Designer and Chromaverb. They're cool, but I don't feel like I've really got an excellent plate reverb, something that works all the time on drums, all the time on vocals. In Space Designer, I've never really found a plate reverb that works that well. I just keep having to bring my own impulses in. I just want something that works. And Tal Reverb 4 just works. It's completely free, and personally, that's my recommendation for a great free reverb. I hope that's been useful for you. There's so many different alternatives out there that we can use at the moment, and it seems that so many companies are coming up with stuff and pushing it out there completely for free, and take advantage of it. There are so many good plugins out there that, yes, a lot of the paid ones are fantastic and they will give you something unique, but that's not to say there isn't a free or cheaper alternative that is going to do something pretty similar. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I've missed, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.